It is indeed with a very warm heart that we welcome you to today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuloko. Last episode, we informed you that the Rumukurushi Port Harcourt Integrated Tax Office of the Federal Revenue Service organized an interactive session with tax consultants, company auditors, and tax collecting banks on Thursday, 1st of March 2012 in Port Harcourt. We briefly mentioned the event and promised you a fuller report on today's episode. That promise we are keeping today, because you see, what transpired at that interactive session is representative of what would transpire at any such event organized by any integrated tax office of the FIRS anywhere in the country. The views expressed by those in attendance, company auditors, tax consultants, and representatives of tax collecting banks also represent what you would hear from any concerned stakeholder at any such event. So in doing this, we are acting on behalf and for the benefit of everybody. Mr. Olowo is the head of the Taxpayer Services Unit of the Rumukurushi Integrated Tax Office, and it was his slot to welcome everybody to the event.
This interactive session, like the ones held in the past, is committed to setting standards for the effective service delivery to taxpayers. It will also bring to the fore our policy that states that taxpayer is the king. This platform of relationship and interaction will also serve as a base upon which needs are identified, services are reliably, efficiently, and fairly provided.
Mr. F.O. Obri, the tax controller of the Benin Integrated Tax Office of the FIRS, represented Mr. Gbolaga Oshiga, the regional coordinator of the South-South region of the FIRS, and delivered the keynote address in which he harped on full implementation of self-assessment.
The self-assessment regime we're going to be practicing going forward is anchored on the taxpayer, supported firmly by the tax consultants and the auditors. With our various roles and responsibility in that regard, we'll be able to drive it.
Two papers were presented at the interactive session. Mr. M.O. Nitolo, head of the audit team at the ITO, delivered the first paper on sensitization for improved service delivery, which addressed the modalities for making tax payment through the banks.
Our main duty, our main responsibility is to assess tax, to collect, and to account. And of course, you know that we don't collect cash in our office. We don't even collect checks. But the bankers can do. They are the intermediary between you consultants and the FRS. So the appropriate destination is what we will now account for, all what we have collected from you through this channel to the appropriate destination.
To the collecting banks.
Then our expectation from this bank is this. We want you to acquaint yourself with the service agreement that mandates you to collect on behalf of FRS. We want you to ensure taxpayers are not unduly delayed. Some banks are very, very good. They have a customized seller for FRS. Fine. But we don't want you to stop at that. If you can create a special desk or a special counter or a kind of where a taxpayer wants to pay, you can easily be attended to without joining that long queue. Remit all taxes promptly and accurately. And of course, this one, it is not only expected from banks, but from the tax consultants. When payments are made, you need to get your e-ticket immediately. This is very, very good. On our own part, if we assure us that this money you have collected has actually entered into FRS first. On your own part, you will get three benefits. One, if there is any error, the taxpayer will quickly identify those errors before you sweep it to your lead bank. Again, the taxpayer will have the confidence that this money I have paid and I will get my receipt. And thirdly, before the close of day, before the close of that day, if there is any wrong posting, either wrong classification of tax type, you will get it. The taxpayer will shout. What you give him, if it's not what he paid for, he will shout. So it is incumbent, it is very, very important that when payments are received, you give e-tickets. And for you tax consultants, taxpayers, when you make payments to the bank, please demand instantly for your e-ticket. And of course, there are two e-tickets. If I want to pay in First Bank and I present Diamond Bank check, of course, they will give me pro forma e-ticket because the money has not been cleared as at that time when that payment was made. If I present Eco Bank check to First Bank, it will not be clear. But if I present First Bank draft, First Bank check, it is as good as cash. And the e-ticket that will be given to me will not be that pro forma e-ticket. It will be the real e-ticket. Because it is as that payment, that instrument of payment belongs to that bank. Again, we want to urge you to always request for the tax identification number from these customers when they come to your office to make payments. Again, we expect that in accordance with the law, when you open an account for any corporate entity, you must furnish us the returns of such corporate entity. This is just the law. FRS have not been enforcing this because we know we are partners in progress. We want to tell you, from 2012, this is a section of the law. It is not Rumukurushi made. It is not the regionals made. Once a corporate account is opened in your bank, you ought to furnish FRS without details. Because even before you open it, some of them, if they just register their business, you bankers, you guys know how you run to FRS office. Please furnish us SIN number. This company is our customer. He wants to open an account. You know when you need an obligation from us to come and collect SIN numbers. You should equally know why you should render us that your responsibility, why you should do that your responsibility by rendering the returns of corporate entity that open an account with you within 1 month. Then we must ensure that all confirmation, all data are confirmed before we post. Because once you post in an error, of course, for some of you that had experience, when you post in an error, the customer will be on your neck, they will be on FRS neck. And I'm not saying the process of correcting this error is cumbersome. It's very, very defined. But some of the things that will be required, FRS will require before this error can be corrected, they are more than what the time in getting them. If you have followed the simple rules, you will have saved yourself that time wasted. When requesting for SIN number from FRS for your customers, please ensure that the correct data is captured. Correct data in the sense that the correct address, that is the registered office of that company. If a company has a branch, don't use branch code when it is the head office that is paying. And don't use head office code when it is the branch that is paying. We can identify this branch code and head office code by the last three numbers that appears on the SIN number. It is either 0001 or 0002. If it is 0002, it could be for the branch office. Why is it 001? It could be for the head office. So when payments are made, because if you made a wrong payment, if you use a wrong SIN number, the head office is in Lagos, the branch office is in Port Harcourt, and you made a payment, you use one. So collect receipt for that your branch office that has made that payment. You need to travel to Lagos and collect that. Not that FRS will not give you the receipt. The FRS is one strong united family. Of course, they will give you the receipt. But for you to get that receipt, you need to go to Lagos and collect the receipt. Again, we have these challenges of, from bank, wrong classification. A payment that is POL, pre-operational levy, you now post it to company income tax account. The federal government has various accounts for all this money that are being collected by you. We have the federation account, we have the consolidated account, we have the VAT pool account. All these accounts, they have their own headings, and federal government uses them for various development programs. And of course, bankers knows the account, all these accounts. So when taxpayers approach you for payment, please endeavor to capture these payments to the right account. You cannot pay POL into federation accounts. They are separate accounts that serve separate purpose. So we implore you to please look again into this area.
And to consultants?
And of course, for some of us that are collecting withholding tax, all these bankers, and for some of our consultants that are paying withholding tax, please ensure that when paying our withholding tax, we provide soft copy to this bank. Because at a point, when this platform is being opened by the banker, the system will request for upload. It is this schedule that we have submitted to them that will be uploaded into the system. Because when you pay withholding tax, it is not your money. It is those people that we have collected on their behalf, you are deducted on behalf. It is their money. And of course, they will use it to settle their tax liability. So if you don't provide schedule and say you want to pay withholding tax, of course the bankers cannot, they are not magicians. They will not be able to do that for you. And once such money is collected and you cannot provide schedule, the money will be hanging there. So we implore you, tax consultants, so please always forward to the bank the soft copy of your schedule of payment. Where the beneficiaries are not more than 2 or 3, of course you can just write with hand. If you have a very good relationship with the bank, I'm not saying it's an appropriate way of doing it, but if you have a good relationship with them, what the law simply says is that you should provide for them in soft copy so that they can upload. But when you have good relationship, you can just write and let them key it in. But without schedule, of course, withholding tax payment cannot be processed.
Now, sorry, madam. I don't say for my name.
I don't check in no day. After all my wahala, these people still no register me.
Haba, I put on 14.
Tingini, wetin concern tin tomato for inside this matter wey we dey talk now?
Eva, explain for am 14.
Madam, taxpayers identification number TIN, a special number for all correct taxpayers. E dey compulsory if you wan register and do business with government. Without TIN, you no go fit do business.
Abeg, na how much I go pay to collect this thing?
Madam, I get am 14 free.
Madam, take your certificate of incorporation to FIRS office, fill the form, and you go get am one time.
Just like that? Abeg, make I go collect my own
Yowa.
TIN na free o, na for everybody. Na your correct identity. FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
Chief host of the session, Mr. H.M. Ibrahim, tax controller of the Rumukurushi Port Harcourt Integrated Tax Office of the FIRS, delivered the second paper on self-assessment as an important tool of voluntary compliance.
Self-assessment is something that has come to stay now, whether we like it or not. We've been doing it our own way, but we want to give the government is now giving the opportunity to the taxpayers, ably assisted by the tax consultant, to be reporting themselves. We are giving you the trust, the owners of companies, ably assisted by the tax consultants. Then the bank would sweep the money to the government coffers to be used for meaningful development and provision of infrastructure. But it will amuse one to say, okay, if you are saying assess yourself, or I'm giving you, the tax office is the FIRS is giving you the ability to assess yourself. How do I assess myself? Self-assessment in simple is that you've been given the trust to report whatever income you are making correctly, which will be taxed by FIRS based on your submission. And this goes against the former practice where we will assess you, impose that assessment on you, and tell you to go and pay whether you like it or not. If you want to cry, go to court. But it's what is regarded as below international best practice. But you shouldn't forget the fact that you are guided by a limit, which is the actual period within which you are supposed to report. So because you are encouraged, because you are told to assess yourself, doesn't mean that you do it endlessly. You have to make effort to report within the due date. And the due date here will be explained further. For companies that are new, 18 months from the date of incorporation. Then for the existing companies, 6 months after the accounting date, whichever is earlier. And there are certain items key in the self-assessment practice which the assessment must capture, and that is the turnover, the assessable profit, capital allowance claim, losses relieved, and the taxpayer's taxable profit and tax payable.
So not until these items reflect in your tax return that you are filing as self-assessment, it will not be regarded as complete. Added to this, you need to attach the evidence of payment, then a declaration, then a seal of either ICANN, ANAN, and CITN. So, when these are done, your returns filed based on self-assessment will be regarded as complete to be received in the tax office. If there are other issues, of course, you'll say it, then we'll find a way of going around it.
Mr. Ibrahim went further to speak on the late filing of returns.
Where a taxpayer fails to file returns, what happens? Where a taxpayer fails to submit returns by the due date, FRS will carry out a spot audit of the company, assess as per the findings of the audit team after reconciliation with the taxpayer. Then, an administrative assessment replace the BOG based on estimated profit or profit perceived to be fair and reasonable will be raised. You see, the main import of this is, before now, when you don't file in returns, we'll assess your best of judgment. But the question is, how best is that best of judgment? It is in the eyes of the beholder. And it's not every officer that will apply the true basis of what is guiding him to raise that best of judgment assessment.